Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. It occurs to me that I haven't done anything on CSGO for a little while, and the last video I did on CSGO was quite some time ago, so it wasn't representative of what you're going to be seeing in a couple of days. On August 21st, of course, and I thought I'd give you a video for Arms Race, which is one of the modes in the game, and it is essentially gun game for all intents and purposes, but it's a very big gun game. A rather significant gun game indeed. Why? It's just because of the sheer number of guns that are actually in this gun game. There are 26 of them. That's quite a lot of bloody guns. Now, this particular version of gun game is done in a 5-on-5 format, which is a little bit interesting, honestly. I'm used to playing gun game in more of an FFA format. In fact, I much prefer it in an FFA format. You want to know why that is? I prefer it in an FFA format because you don't tend to get your levels and kills stolen all that much in that particular format. At least if some bastard steals your kill in gun game FFA, at least you can shoot the guy in the face and get yourself a level in return. Can't really do that with your friends. It's not a particularly good idea at any rate. Whatever the case, you start with a bunch of really terrible SMG kind of machine pistol type things, that being the MP7 right there. There's an example of kill being taken that I would have very much liked. Of course, he has the same thing in mind, but we don't care about him because we're selfish. Oh, wow, yes. The Bison, the famous Bison with its cylindrical magazine. I am very surprised I got a kill with that bloody thing because it's awful. You'll see why later on. It is absolutely dreadful. Really, really bad gun. Now, at the moment, I think those animation stuttering issues have got something to do with the fact that I'm pinging 90 to that server, which is still a bit bad. I mean, this is a game that's coming out in a couple of days, and we've got stuff like animation stuttering and lag issues when you're pinging 90? I mean, this is the server it match made me to. 90 is not that terrible. I mean, personally, I'd prefer a lot lower, obviously, but I wouldn't be expecting to see those kind of issues at 90 ping. So I'm hoping that's something that they iron out before release. Ah, yes, here we go, the P90, one of my favorite SMGs in pretty much any game that happens to have a P90. Doesn't mean it's any good, I just happen to like it. I used to pulse fire with it, running at full speed, firing from the hip in CS Source, and I had a reasonable amount of success with it. But of course, as everybody knows, there's only about 3 good guns in Counter-Strike. That is something they're attempting to fix, which is a good thing, and you can see in this particular mode that they are making a great deal of effort to create a bunch of guns that don't suck. As you can see here, we've got one of those more handheld shotguns, a variety of shotguns available here, which is good. My favorite auto shotty is here. Here we go, the XM1014. Love this. Delicious. But here's one of the big beefs that I happen to have with this particular mode. As you can see, that guy over there respawned, and he was partially invisible. Why? Because he gets a period of invulnerability. Now, usually I'd be okay with this, except for the fact that it allows someone to run in front of you while invisible, and then headshot you before you can do a damn bloody thing about it. As soon as you fire, you come out of invulnerability. Which is just ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, the invulnerability period should be for a couple of seconds. You should not be able to disable it manually. That gives you an edge. It gives you the ability to shoot somebody in the head, or at least start a firefight with someone before they can physically do it to you, which naturally gives you an edge and an advantage. I think that, honestly, it's as a result of this very small map and the way that the spawn system actually works, and I think that perhaps the best way to avoid it would be to not go to your opponent's side of the map at all. Admittedly, you get kind of punished for doing so, because gun game is all about getting the most amount of kills in the shortest period of time before someone actually beats you to the end. I really don't like that as a spawning mechanic, quite frankly, and it annoys me greatly to see that happening. It just feels incredibly cheap. Alright, well, a couple of other things I can talk about here. There have been some complaints about the graphics style of this game. I mean, to start with, I'll say that for a PC game, it looks okay for a budget game, and it is essentially a budget game. It's a $15 title. It looks alright. Doesn't look amazing. I mean, we've got fairly low-resolution textures across the board. It's still Source Engine at the end of the day. There's only so much you can really do with it. It doesn't look bad. It just doesn't really impress me in any respect. That said, I don't really expect AAA graphics from a $15 game, and I certainly don't expect it from the bloody Source Engine. It's been around for quite some time. The graphics work fairly well. One complaint that I do have, and this is something that popped up on the forums as well, has been a concern of the Counter-Strike community for quite a little bit, is the fact that the game has an awful lot of unnecessary effects. If you look around the outside of the screen, you'll notice there's actually some black fade. This is not something I've added to the video, it is actually there. Why is that there? It's an absolutely pointless piece of aesthetic nonsense that quite frankly gets in the bloody way. Wow, I don't know what's with my accent tonight, but hey, it gets in the bloody way, love! It does. It really does. A cynical Londoner. One way or the other, I'm not really a fan of that being there. And also there's some fog issues as well. There's a really good comparison thread where someone was able to enable cheats to disable the fog, and the game's just much better. It feels less cluttered, things appear clearer, and at the end of the day, if you're going to make a competitive game, you don't want to obfuscate people's vision with nonsense. It's not something that you really need. Admittedly, if you're playing casually, the chances are you're not really going to notice any of that, but it just seems to me a little bit of visual trickery to make the game look better than it really is. And quite frankly, I don't need that in my FPS. I'm okay with nice, clear, obvious texture work. Ah, yes, the M249. Still as bloody useless as ever, quite frankly. There's actually a couple of other LMGs available in the game as well. It's always nice to have that variety. I think that's probably one of the greatest strengths of CSGO, honestly. It's just got so many more guns in it. And the consensus, for the most part from people, is that these guns are actually alright. They seem fairly reasonable. There's a lot more diversity in the guns, and you're not going to come down to simply having to use the M4, the MP5, or the Deagle. Good, quite frankly. One of the things that I wanted to see from the original Counter-Strike games was the ability to use more than 3 guns. And thankfully, it seems like they've managed to make that happen. They've also added some cool stuff like the Molotov cocktail, other kinds of grenades. So everything has been improved in terms of its variety. Is it a better game than CSS? Well, some people are claiming it is. Apparently the hitboxes are a lot tighter. I read a very nice hitbox comparison on the SK Gaming website, and that seems a lot better. I mean, that was a big complaint about CSS, for one thing. Something I have noticed, though, and this is once again a complaint of some people within the community, is that people don't seem to slow down all that much when you actually hit them with a weapon in comparison to the original Counter-Strike. I'm going to flip over to the other map that's currently available in the rotation here and talk just a little bit more about this. So, the original Counter-Strike, you were rewarded for accurate fire, and it resulted in some fairly tactical play. Once you got hit by a bullet, you weren't going to be jumping around, strafing, or anything along those lines to try and dodge further attacks, and of course, it was going to shoot your cone of fire into oblivion. You're going to have to deal with all sorts of nonsense with your bullet spread, so you generally didn't want to do that. You wanted to crouch, you wanted to be going for headshots pretty much all of the time. It seems like Counter-Strike Go doesn't reward you quite as much for that. Admittedly, it could just be this game mode. It's close quarters, you have to deal with a lot of very nonsensical weapons, and you're spawning behind people consistently. It's a little bit of a mess. So perhaps it's something to do with that, and I think I need to play just a little bit more of the competitive mode to truly gauge how big a deal that actually is, but it does seem to be there. Regardless, though, it does have the custom server browser, and no doubt this is going to get heavily modded, and due to the fact that the hitboxes are much better this time around, the hit detection seems to be a lot better than Counter-Strike Source, I feel that the pro scene is going to have a much better time of things. As regards to more casual players, well, this game mode's just a ton of fun. The frustrations that I had with it are fairly limited and can be, for the most part, avoided by simply just learning the map in general. I mean, there, for instance, that's once again annoying. If he wasn't in that crazy ghost form, then he would have died, no problem there whatsoever, but that's just the way of it, and perhaps I shouldn't be sitting too close to the spawn point. It's really hard to do that, though. When your map's so sodding small, you can walk from one side to the other in about 10 seconds. It's not what I would call especially difficult, but at least the map is fairly interesting in terms of its design. There are a number of different levels to the map. There are some nice areas to use different kinds of weapon. You want to go close quarters with an SMG or a shotgun, then you want to be sticking to the corridors. There are some sniping spots and areas where an assault rifle will perform particularly well. So it's good to see that. Oh dear, it's the Bison again. Behold the Bison and its amazing accurate glory. Just look at that crap. God, this gun sucks so incredibly badly. Oh dear. No, I do not want the righteous Bison. Thank you very much. Can we at least kill someone with this, please? There we go. Oh, the UMP. Yes, delicious weapon. And the P90. An even more delicious weapon. That's what I'm talking about. Most excellent. It's still very satisfying to get those nice streaks and to just slaughter your way through, guys. Gun game is as fun as it always has been, and what I wanted from gun game was a ton of weapons. And hey, that's actually exactly what I got. Can't really complain whatsoever. Game feels good in general. The guns have a nice amount of recoil to them, they have good sound assets, they have nice models that seem to be fairly accurate and authentic. And it seems like every gun at least has some kind of a use, even if with the Bison, it's more of a joke weapon. I'm going to spray 60 bullets in your general direction. One of them might hit you in the toe, perhaps. That might be good enough. Ah ha ha! Sit down. Thank you very much. There is little more satisfying than that, although the guy spawning directly behind me we can certainly do without. Thank you very much. Ah, back to the days of Black Ops and its silly back spawning. I mean, these maps are essentially Nuketown, let's be honest. They are so bloody small in that regard. Ouch. The more I play of CSGO, the more I'm actually enjoying it, and I was never the world's biggest Counter-Strike fan. In fact, I barely ever played it. When I used to live at home, this was when I was young, like 13, 14, me and my brother would play Half-Life mods, the original Half-Life. He was really into Counter-Strike. He was pretty good at it, the original Counter-Strike, of course. I, on the other hand, was into a game called Firearms, which is unfortunately not a game that has had too much of a rebirth. I believe there is a Firearms source, but it is nowhere near as good as the original. So, Counter-Strike, not really a thing for me. I played Team Fortress Classic, I played Science and Industry, which was such a fantastic mod, and of course a little bit of Sven co-op, Action Half-Life. Now there was a game, and of course the specialists that followed that up. Counter-Strike though, no. And I think CSGO is probably the first Counter-Strike game that's grabbed me in a very real way. I think just because it feels more complete. It feels like I don't have to play in a certain way. I can actually use my own playstyle, utilize the guns that I choose, and at least be reasonably effective with it. I'm playing an awful lot of gun game. I have also played Arsenal mode that you saw in my previous video, which is a nice balancer. I think Arsenal mode is one of the best modes in the game to actually teach people the basics of playing Counter-Strike. Why? Because it's a self-balancing kind of mode. The better players end up with worse guns, and the weaker players at least have the better guns, and it can at least compete to some basic degree. But you are still rewarded for skill. It's a nicely balanced mode, and I think that that's the kind of thing you want to do with people that haven't really played much Counter-Strike, and they're just not very good at FPS. It's that kind of mode. But you've still got all of the competitive modes like Demolition and Competitive Classic that you would be looking for. I think for a $15 title, this game provides such variety, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the community can do in terms of modifications and different rule sets, as well as, of course, with map design. The classic maps make their return, which is wonderful to see, and there are a bunch of new maps which seem to be pretty reasonable as well. And it's $15! Come on, it's $15! When do you get such a fully featured FPS? Not even a game like Section 8 Prejudice is as fully featured for $15. Gotham City Imposters is not as fully featured for $15 as a game like CSGO. It might not look the best. Counter-Strike is showing its age these days, but it is brought bang up to date with a ton of variety without actually falling into the trap of progression-based multiplayer. That's probably the best thing about this. Oh, wonderful. It's a game that I don't have to level up to 60 to get all of the bloody stuff in. Oh, hallelujah. Finally someone took that kind of risk. I'm genuinely having an awful lot of fun with this game. Looking forward to playing some more of it. I will hopefully bring you a post-launch video with the more classic mode. See how that one ends up turning out. Matchmaking seems to work pretty well. They're not doing proper ranked comparisons as of yet, so you can end up with some people that are far better than you. I guess they just haven't started recording ranks as of yet in the beta version. But I didn't really have too many problems running into people that were god tier at the game, so I at least felt reasonably competitive. I still need to aim higher. That's a nasty habit of mine. Aim higher, it's a Counter-Strike game, for the love of God. Shoot for the head, not a console shooter. Absolutely not. But it's nice. It seems like it's accessible to newcomers, but it's got a reasonably high skill ceiling. It is not the Call of Duty style, where everything is hit scan and you just hold the button down and things under your aim down sights, which are thankfully not in this game, will die. They won't. Teaches a little bit of trigger discipline, a little bit of fire discipline, of course, the art of crouching, bursting, and aiming for the head in the correct fashion, but it's still got the dual elites. What a delicious set of weapons they were. I love these. I don't know why. I really just liked the dual elites. I don't even know if they were any good. Are they, from a competitive standpoint? Probably not, but they're fun nonetheless. I think they're very much an iconic weapon for Counter-Strike. And this would be the last kill. Can we get the golden knife kill and finish the round and win? No, because someone else got there first. Gah! Gun game in a nutshell. Counter-Strike Go, ladies and gentlemen, available on Steam for $15 August the 21st. I'll see you next time.